Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, thunder rolling above you, the ground trembling beneath your feet. Most would call it chaos. But what if the storm wasn't punishment? What if it was the signal of something ancient awakening inside you? We've been told that spiritual awakening is random, that strange headaches, sleepless nights, or sudden chills are just bizarre side effects of an invisible process. Entire lists flood the internet, ringing in your ears, seeing repeating numbers, mood swings, vivid dreams. But here is the truth. Those lists are fragments, distractions. They describe the smoke, not the fire. As the Hermetic texts whisper, the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. And science now confirms, consciousness is not fixed. It bends, breaks, and rebuilds itself when energy reorganizes. Awakening is not a superstition, it's a universal architecture, and your so-called symptoms are coded messages from that architecture. This video will not repeat what you've already heard. We will go beneath the surface, behind the clichés, and reveal what is truly happening in your mind, your body, and your perception. Why these patterns appear, why they feel so overwhelming, and what secret they are preparing you for. Stay with me until the very end. Because hidden beneath the noise of symptoms lies a single truth that no one dares to tell you. A truth that could change the way you see your awakening forever. When people first search for awakening symptoms, they are met with endless lists, repeated so often they feel like gospel. Headaches that come out of nowhere. Insomnia that leaves you restless in the night. A high-pitched ringing in the ears. Sudden chills moving through the body. Seeing 1111 or other repeating numbers everywhere you look. Emotional sensitivity that feels like drowning. Anxiety without a clear cause. Shifts in appetite and taste. Vivid dreams that feel more real than waking life. Even tingling sensations in the hands and crown of the head. These are the popular symptoms, the ones that dominate forums and videos, whispered as if they are proof you are ascending. And while they are not false, they are incomplete. They describe what is happening on the surface, but not the engine underneath. They reduce a sacred process to a checklist, and in doing so, they trap you in the shallow end of the mystery. Think of it like looking at smoke rising from a fire. If all you ever describe is the color of the smoke, white, gray, or black, you miss the truth of what is burning, of what is transforming in the flames. Awakening symptoms are smoke. The fire is consciousness itself, reorganizing at a level most never dare to see. This is why so many get stuck. They measure their progress by how many of these symptoms they can collect, as if awakening were a scavenger hunt. They obsess over headaches, chills, or number patterns, yet never pause to ask, why is this happening? What deeper code is trying to reveal itself through my body and mind? The first step in breaking free is to recognize that the cliché lists are not the truth. They are the echoes of the truth. Echoes that point to something deeper, more dangerous, and more liberating. And it is only when you stop chasing the symptoms that you can finally start understanding the source. Beneath every so-called symptom, something far more radical is unfolding. Your consciousness is rewriting its own code. Imagine a vast operating system that has been running the same outdated program for decades. When a new update is installed, the old files resist. Corrupted pathways flicker, outdated commands crash. What you feel as disorientation or anxiety is not random suffering. It is the friction of old patterns dissolving while a higher program takes root. Spiritual awakening is this update of awareness. The headaches, the insomnia, the ringing, they are not punishments. They are the sparks thrown off as neurons rewire, as unused circuits come online, as perception begins to stretch beyond the cage it once lived in. The discomfort is proof that the walls of the mind are being broken, and new light is flooding in. Science whispers the same truth. Neuroscience has discovered neuroplasticity. the brain's ability to rewire itself under pressure, trauma, or sudden insight. What mystics described as rebirth is mirrored in the synapses, where electrical storms create entirely new maps of reality. The collapse you feel is not chaos, it is architecture, the sacred mechanics of transformation. And yet, because the process is invisible, most cling to the symptoms as if they were the destination. But awakening is not about ringing ears or restless nights. It is about the hidden reprogramming, the dismantling of the old self so the new self can emerge. Every moment of discomfort is the sound of the cocoon tearing open, proof that wings are near. So when your body trembles, when your mind feels like it's splitting, pause and ask, what if this isn't breaking me? What if it's building me? For what we call symptoms are not accidents. They are the language of consciousness, speaking through every cell, preparing the stage for what comes next. Your body is not betraying you. It is translating energy. Every vibration, every shift in frequency that touches your consciousness must be expressed somewhere in flesh and bone. Just as an instrument vibrates when struck by a tuning fork, your cells resonate with the new frequency of your awareness. What you call symptoms are simply translations of invisible currents into physical language. Think of the ringing in your ears. It is the nervous system adjusting to frequencies it once filtered out. The sudden heat or chills. That is your energy field surging and recalibrating, like electrical circuits handling a higher current. Tingling in the crown or spine is not random. It is your body's antenna aligning with a larger field, learning to tune into signals beyond ordinary perception. Modern science confirms this hidden dialogue. Epigenetics shows that environment and energy can switch genes on or off, creating real physical change. Heart coherence studies reveal that emotions shift the electromagnetic field around the body. What ancient mystics described as prana, chi, or life force is being measured as subtle energy fields. Your body is the canvas where consciousness paints its transformations. And yes, it can feel overwhelming. Muscles ache, appetite shifts, emotions surge. But what if, instead of resisting, you saw each sensation as communication? The body is not punishing you. It is whispering. We are upgrading. We are aligning. We are preparing you to carry more light. This is the hidden secret. The body is not a prison for the soul. It is the translator, the sacred bridge where energy becomes matter. And when you learn to listen to that language, every symptom stops being an enemy and becomes a guide. What unnerves most people about awakening is not the ringing ears or restless nights. It is the quiet collapse of the story they thought was permanent. The self you carried like an identity card begins to fracture. Roles, beliefs, and masks you wore without question start to fall away. And suddenly the person in the mirror looks less like you and more like a fading ghost. It feels like standing in a crumbling theater set. The walls you leaned on for safety turn to dust. The script you memorized no longer makes sense. You reach for the old lines, the old certainties, but they dissolve mid-sentence. This is why awakening is terrifying. It is the death of a narrative, the funeral of who you believed you were. Mystics have called this the dark night of the soul. Psychologists might call it ego dissolution. Both point to the same reality. The scaffolding of identity is breaking down so that a wider awareness can emerge. The fear, the emptiness, the sense of groundlessness. These are not errors. They are signs that the cocoon is splitting, that the smaller self cannot contain the expansion of the larger. And yet, here lies the paradox. What feels like loss is actually liberation. The crumbling of identity is the cracking of a shell. You are not being erased. You are being revealed. But in the moment, it can feel like standing at the edge of a void, unsure if you are falling or flying. So the question becomes, will you mourn the fragments of the mask, or will you trust the emergence of the face beneath it? For only when the old story burns away can the true narrative of your consciousness begin. If the cliché symptoms are the smoke, and the collapse of identity is the fire, Then what lies beneath both is the blueprint, the universal laws that quietly govern every awakening. These are not random occurrences. They are patterns etched into the fabric of existence, repeating across cultures, eras, and souls. And when you recognize them, the confusion begins to dissolve into clarity. The first is mentalism, the truth that all is mind. During awakening, you begin to notice your thoughts shaping reality more directly. Dreams bleed into waking life. Intentions manifest with startling speed. It feels unsettling at first, as if the walls between inner and outer worlds have thinned, because they have. Then comes vibration, the buzzing, the ringing, the chills. These are the fingerprints of frequency. Everything vibrates, from atoms to galaxies, and as your consciousness rises, your body trembles to match. Science calls it resonance. Mystics call it alignment. Both describe the same dance. Correspondence reveals itself in synchronicities, the way inner changes echo in outer events. A thought about someone followed by their sudden call. A shift in belief mirrored by a shift in your relationships. As above, so below. As within, so without. Awakening makes this law impossible to ignore. Polarity surfaces as extremes. Joy followed by despair. Silence followed by chaos. The pendulum swings because consciousness is stretching, teaching you that opposites are not enemies but mirrors. Rhythm adds its wave. Periods of expansion followed by contraction. Surges of clarity followed by plateaus of fog. Just like the tides, your awakening breathes in cycles. Cause and effect sharpens. Every thought, every choice seems to ripple instantly through your life, pulling coincidences into chains of meaning. You begin to see there are no accidents, only sequences. And finally, gender. Not in terms of biology, but in the union of principles. The active and the receptive. The seed and the soil. Within awakening, you feel both energies converge, balancing your inner sun and moon. These 7 patterns are not symptoms. They are laws. And the so-called symptoms, the ringing ears, the restless nights, the burning chills, are only the echoes of these deeper forces reshaping you. Once you recognize the laws beneath the noise, the mystery transforms into a map. The real question is, will you keep chasing the smoke, or will you learn to read the blueprint? Because once you see the patterns, awakening is no longer chaos. It becomes initiation. Every initiation carries a threshold. A moment where you are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. Awakening is no different. Once the old patterns collapse and the universal laws begin to stir within you, you enter a strange liminal space. The air feels thinner. Familiar places feel foreign. Conversations sound hollow. It is as if you are walking between 2 worlds, belonging fully to neither. This is why so many describe a sense of emptiness, or what mystics call the void. You may feel detached from friends, restless in your routines, or even invisible in the life you once recognized. But this emptiness is not absence. It is preparation, the silence between heartbeats, the pause before the symphony begins again. Science might frame it as liminal perception, the brain pruning old neural pathways while new ones form, leaving you in an in-between state where nothing feels solid. Spiritually, it is the crossing of a threshold, the cocoon split open, yet the wings not fully unfurled. You are suspended in a sacred pause, where the universe teaches patience and trust. And yes, it can feel unbearable. You question if you're broken, if you've lost your way. But what if the very sensation of not belonging is proof that you're evolving? For no one can step into a new reality while still clinging to the gravity of the old. The emptiness is the womb space of rebirth. So the next time silence surrounds you, or the world feels like a faded hologram, remember, you are not lost. You are between worlds. And this is the passage every awakened soul must walk. The only way forward is through. When the silence stretches too long and the symptoms feel unbearable, the mind does what it always does. It looks for certainty outside itself. You scroll through lists, watch countless videos, compare your experience with others, desperate to confirm that what you're feeling is real. But in doing so, you step into a trap. The belief that your awakening must look like someone else's. The truth is, no two awakenings are identical. The laws are universal, yes, but the way they weave into each life is unique, sculpted by your history, your wounds, your purpose. Trying to measure your progress against another's is like comparing a sunrise to a thunderstorm. Both are transformations of the sky, but neither can imitate the other. Mystics warned of this centuries ago. They knew that imitation leads to illusion, that the moment you chase someone else's checklist, you lose sight of your own path. Even science agrees. Neuroplasticity shows that each brain reshapes itself in singular ways, with no two rewiring patterns ever the same. Your awakening is not a template. It is a fingerprint. And yet, the comparison seduces you. It whispers, "Am I far enough? Am I behind? Shouldn't I feel what they feel?" But awakening is not a race, and it is certainly not a contest of symptoms. The real question is not, do I match them? But am I listening to what life is carving uniquely through me? So, release the checklist. Let go of the competition. For the only awakening that matters is the one unfolding in your own soul. Unrepeatable, incomparable, irreplaceable. And the moment you stop measuring against others, you begin to finally see the signal that matters most. If headaches, chills, and restless nights are not the true markers of awakening, then what is? What is the one signal that rises above all illusions? The answer is not found in the body, but in perception. Awakening is not measured by how often you see 11:11. It is measured by how deeply you begin to see reality itself. The true sign is clarity, the sudden recognition that your thoughts sculpt your world. Where you once felt trapped in loops, you now glimpse the hidden pattern beneath them. Where you once believed you were a victim of chance, you now feel the pulse of causality, the rhythm of a universe that responds to your consciousness. It is expansion, an inner widening that allows paradox to coexist without tearing you apart. Pain and peace, silence and sound, darkness and light. You no longer cling to one or fear the other because you sense the law of polarity working in you, balancing extremes into harmony. And it is connection, not to a checklist, not to someone else's story, but to the vast field of intelligence breathing through everything. You feel the trees listening, the stars watching, the heartbeat of the earth syncing with your own. For the first time, you realize you are not alone. You are the universe, waking up to itself through human eyes. That is the secret no one tells you. Awakening is not about collecting symptoms. It is about dissolving into perception so wide, so luminous, that the old self can no longer contain it. And once you taste that, no headache or dream can compare. Because the truest signal of awakening is the birth of a new way of seeing. So now you see. Awakening is not chaos. It is not random suffering, nor a strange lottery of headaches, chills, and sleepless nights. It is the architecture of consciousness, reshaping itself through you. The clichés are only the surface. The real truth lies beneath, in the collapse of old stories, in the universal laws unfolding, in the silence between worlds, and in the birth of a new perception. Every symptom, every moment of emptiness, every flicker of fear is not an enemy but a signal that you are crossing thresholds older than time, walking the same path the mystics, sages, and seekers once walked. You are not being punished, you are being initiated. The hidden truth is this: the greatest sign of awakening is not found in your body, but in your vision, in the way you begin to see, with clarity, with expansion, with connection. Once you glimpse that, nothing can be the same again, because you realize you are not simply experiencing symptoms. You are experiencing rebirth. And if this message spoke to you, if you felt the whisper of truth echo through your own journey, then let this be your step deeper into the path. Subscribe to Infinity Echoes and activate the notifications, not as a formality, but as a ritual of returning, of remembering, of walking together through the hidden architecture of awakening. For this is only the beginning. The next revelations are waiting.